1 button.
Button.
2 button. 3 button. We should be live, and I'm gonna let the intro roll. And I'm gonna get the thing. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it?
And there's the TRG notification.
Good.
All right. Yay!
Hello,
everyone.
First question is, do we keep the janky?
Janky? What do you mean?
Remember, this is the one that has the janky 2D live animation.
Oh, right.
And if I turn that off, it also turns off the voices. So what do you want?
Surprise me.
What do you mean surprise you?
Pick one.
I can't pick.
Why not?
Oh, just get the wheel.
All right.
The wheel will decide for us if we have janky 2014 live 2D animation or not. Say, look, adjust the mouth lip syncing setting.
Let's see.
Turning off voices will also turn off lip syncing. I don't trust the sync. Ba, 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 ba. I should get the walk through.
Probably.
Very,
All right, spinning.
Alright, okay.
Okay, we're doing the janky animation.
Oh, so I don't get to turn it off. Alright. Well, we're starting from the beginning.
Begin.
Is the same name as before? Yes.
Hi.
Because I've already tested this. And that's when I noticed a janky ass animation. So we will all suffer!
Well, I guess so then.
Oh. Let's go. Prologue.
That's something I need to replay at some point is Paper Mario.
Oh my lord.
And it's on the Switch now.
That is true.
Anyway,
so this is Kyoto. It was awfully impressive. There was no denying it. Even the simple hellos between people passing in the street seemed warm and friendly. They nodded and smiled at one another, almost as if they were family, not strangers about on errands. Still, there was something else as well. something that made the city feel strangely cold, almost as though there was a great invisible wall shutting out anyone who wandered in from the country. It was it wasn't
It,
particularly comfortable, I had to admit. No, that's all in my head. I had walked quite some distance to reach Kyo, and it occurred to me that my mind and body were both very tired. Even so, tiredness was no reason for me to stand about feeling sorry for myself. I couldn't afford to, after all. Excuse me? With new, albeit forced, resolve, I tried to stop a passerby. I'm sorry, but I seem to... Mage!
you seem to be needing to drink water?
Yep.
Already. We're almost 6 minutes in, and there's the first one.
Hi, Mage. That's what. I'm sorry, but I seem to be a bit lost. Could you... yes, Mage, you did absolutely nothing. What am I supposed to do now? I was lost again, but in a different sort of way. I sighed and found myself looking up at the darkening sky. The sun was beginning to set. The people I'd spoken to hadn't been unkind, and they'd given me the directions I needed, but... couldn't he have chosen a better time to leave the city?
No.
Apart from my father, there was only one other person in the city who I could rely on, Matsumoto-sensei. Matsumoto-sensei was a doctor in service to the shogunate. I had never met him myself, but my father put a great deal of trust in the man.
Just got back home, drove my grandma, and helped her help get her and buy her groceries. So,
Guess who else just got home?
yeah, I did.
He had told me that if I should run into any trouble during his absence, I was to contact Matsumoto-sensei. Unfortunately, Matsumoto-sensei was apparently out of town on business and would not return for some time.
Suspicious.
Was I too hasty? Perhaps I should have waited. True, it is rather rude to visit unannounced, which was why I had sent a letter ahead of me. Of course, if he'd been gone for very long, then he had almost certainly not read my letter. Perhaps I thought I should have waited for a reply before traveling alone to a city I'd never even seen. But no, I knew I could not have waited any longer.
Jeez, it is.
Is something wrong, Father? He paused for a moment and looked at me.
It seems I must go to the city of Kyoto for a time.
Work again? He had been leaving the house often then, sometimes for days at a time. How long will you be gone?
I'm afraid I can't say. A month, perhaps? Maybe 2?
Oh. There was no hiding my disappointment. Nonetheless, I wasn't a child anymore. I couldn't beg him not to go, or some other foolishness. Yes, I'd be lonely, but I was much more worried for him. Please, Father, be careful. They say that the city of Kyo is dangerous. He only smiled and nodded.
You needn't fret. I will be sure to send you letters as often as I am able, so that you will have no need to worry.
Okay. You promise? Father kept his promise. A new letter arrived every day, and I scarcely had the time to respond before another would arrive. He told me that he worried about me, home all by myself. Then the letter stopped. A whole month passed with no word from my father, and I began to worry. Father, they say Kyo is full of ronin. It is not a safe place. Usually, a samurai is paid by their house, but Ronin with no house to report to often rob people in order to make ends meet. They're nothing more than violent criminals who hide behind the image of the samurai. Such is the state of the city of Kyo, the city of Ronin. Small wonder, then, that I worried for my father's safety. My mind would concourt horrible possibilities, and I inevitably found myself depressed and tense. First, I suppose I need to find a place to stay. Lost in thought, I hadn't noticed that night had already fallen. If I was honest with myself, I hadn't the first idea how long it might take to find my father. I'd taken some money with me, but it wasn't much. Enough to last me a month, I hoped, if I used it wisely. If I could find father in that time, so much the better. If not, hopefully Matsumoto-sensei would return before my funds ran out. Should I be unable to find either of them, then it would seem I'd be forced to return home. Well, at any rate, I should try and be as frugal as possible. And so I lengthened my stride and set off down the street. Fortunately for me, men's clothing was much more conducive
Condisive, I guess.
to such a pace than my usual dress would have been. I noticed early on that Kyo was far too dangerous for a girl from the country to explore alone, and that it would be wise for me to dress like a man, or at least a boy. My disguise, such as it was, had proven successful, and I'd made it all the way to Kyo unmolested. Perhaps that success had gone to my head, and let
Conducive.
me think. Oh, conducive.
Yes.
All right.
Making a certain situation or outcome likely or possible. It's an adjective.
Okay. That's the word of the day. There might be more. Perhaps the success had gone to my head and let me think a girl dressed as a boy could explore Kyo as she pleased. But Kyo is not a safe place. I should have remembered that. Instead, I had somehow convinced myself that whatever dangers the city hid didn't apply to me.
Hey, kid.
I was about to discover otherwise. Eh? I spun around. In the street in front of me were 3 men, Ronin. Can I help you? I did my best to keep my voice calm as I reached in what I felt was a nonchalant way for my kodachi. My father had made me take lessons in self-defense. I'd kept with them and actually done rather well. My skill was enough to defend against most attacks. Then again, perhaps it was my confidence in my skill that had put me in this situation in the first place. I messed up and let my guard down. My fault. There was a chance I could take them on and win, but there were 3 of them and 1 of me.
Pretty nice you got there, kid.
Only then did I realize they were far more interested in my sword than they were in me.
Looks like a bit much for a pup like this one, am I right? Give it here, okay? We'll use it to defend our country.
But this is... The sword wasn't just some blade I'd picked up. It had been passed down through my family for generations. There was no way I could give it to the Ronin. Unfortunately, I had a feeling they wouldn't understand. In such a situation, the best decision was undoubtedly to retreat. And so
Basically, run.
And so I turned and ran as fast as my legs would carry me.
Hey, get back here, you little bastard!
Gosh, they sure don't give up easily, do they? I felt like I'd been running for quite a while, but I could still hear the Ronin behind me, cursing loudly. I ducked into an alley and flattened myself against the wall. After deciding they weren't too close, I crept farther into the alley. Someone had left a couple of sheets of wood leaning against one of the houses. It was the perfect spot to hide and yawn.
But not too loudly now.
With luck, I thought as I knelt down to shuffle under them, this will get me out of this mess. Huh? Something was wrong. I'd expected to hear the Ronin yelling to each other, looking for me, but seconds turned into minutes, and I heard nothing. I was about to sneak out and have a look when... Damn, Discord didn't like that one. They began to scream. What? My plan to investigate was immediately halted. Remaining silent and hidden was clearly more important. Still...
Damn you! What is this? Why won't you die? Damn it, we gotta get out of here!
It was then that the true fear began to set in. There was something out there, something very, very dangerous. Something quite possibly lethal.
Remember the wise words of Qui-Gon Jinn. There's always a bigger fish.
The possibilities were... Well, my imagination conjured up no shortage of gruesome theories. Even so, I could feel that itch of curiosity. I wanted to know what was out there. Slowly, carefully, I edged up to the corner and looked out. Cold moonlight glared back at me from the bare blade of a drawn sword. My eyes followed the blade up to the arm that held it, clad in a coat of light blue. Had this person saved me? But no sooner had it appeared that hope was dashed. Whoa, Discord didn't like that.
Oh.
I could hear the Ronin beg for his life as he stumbled back. The person in the blue coat said nothing, just stepped forward, his sword raised. Really? Didn't like that one?
Oh my god, Discord.
I think if you're too loud, it just cuts you out. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna let them do it then. And that.
A high, screeching laugh cut through the man's scream. The blade fell through the air, more like a butcher's cleaver than a sword. No technique, no skill, just death. The scream turned suddenly wet, caught, and disappeared like air leaving a half-empty bellows.
Oh no.
My eyes went wide. I had just witnessed a murder.
I like that better than the way that they did that. Oh, another drink water?
No. My controller vibrated.
Oh.
That's actually genuinely scared me. So now I just felt Cheeseeater completely collapse. Whatever strength adrenaline had given me was suddenly gone. My legs gave way and I crumpled to the ground. Oops. Oh, wait, hold on. No, stop it.
Oh no.
I've got to figure out buttons again. Oh. Yeah, button.
Sorry, folks.
Yeah. Just a little louder.
And then.
Okay, thank you.
Alright.
My eyes had gone so wide I thought they might never close. The Ronin had died with the first blow, but as I watched, the blades kept falling, carving deep lines into the corpse. The soft slip of a blade through flesh, the crack as it struck bone, the silent creep of blood across ground. I felt nothing from them but madness. Their only desire was raw animal violence. Whatever they were, it wasn't human. They were broken. I could feel my throat closing up. I couldn't breathe. A warm, dark smell brushed against my face. It took me a moment to recognize the coppery tang of blood. An icy bolt of fear ran down my spine, crawling its way out into my limbs and freezing me in place. I was terrified. What was I going to do? What could I do? You have to run, Chizuru. I forced my jaw open and drew a ragged breath. This was the only chance I'd get. I had to. But my body, still numb with fear, was less than responsive. I lurched sideways into the wood stacked against the building. With a rough clatter, it collapsed.
Oh!
Ah!
I've only ever seen this in the anime.
The creatures turned, their blue coats drenched in blood. Hideous grins split their inhumane faces, and they shook with animal excitement at finding fresh prey to slaughter. There you go.
Oh.
Yeah. And my controller vibrated.
Oh no.
I had to run. I couldn't die yet, but my legs refused to move. That hideous, crackling laughter began again. I was going to die. My body was frozen with terror. I couldn't even scream. This was it. This was the end. What? I watched them raise their bloody swords, the moon glinting off the metal. Then there was a flash of light and the soft splash of blood. I could feel it warm and sticky. Ugh. Bile began to rise in my throat, but before disgust took hold, I heard a voice.
Really?
The words suggested disappointment, but the voice sounded happy.
And I was planning on taking out of them all on my own. Did you pick another day to work so fast, Saito?
As he spoke, the strange man smiled, almost as if he were enjoying himself.
I only did my job. Unlike you, I take no pleasure in battle. Yeah, that's not a very nice thing to say.
He laughed.
You don't even bother to deny it.
The man called Saito sighed with the air of a long-suffering companion and looked over at me. I'm sorry, that line gets me every time.
Maybe. But if you just sat back and let them kill the kid, you could have saved us the trouble.
His tone was light, but his words confirmed my fears. I had left the frying pan, yes, but I was now in the fire.
Perhaps. But that is not ours. But that decision is not ours to make.
Huh? Then there was someone in charge of these two? Their conversation seemed to suggest that they were part of an organization of some sort. As I thought about it, I remembered hearing stories of a group of men with blue coats. My thoughts were interrupted by a dark shape sliding into view. Oh. I swallowed hard. The moonlight shone off his smooth, dark hair, for reasons I couldn't fathom. In that moment, the light on his hair made me think of fluttery flower petals, almost as if the cherry trees were blooming out of season.
Luck is not your friend tonight.
His voice was cold and quiet, like a blade of ice. Blue-white moonlight lit his slender face and shone from the blade he held pointed at my chest. But it wasn't the sword that made my breath catch in my throat. It was his eyes. They were fierce and hard, but somewhere behind them I could catch a glimpse of something else. There could be no doubt that he was prepared to kill me, and yet he looked troubled. Not kindness, but perhaps mercy?
Run, and I will kill you. Do you understand?
I nodded. There was no doubt he'd meant every word he said. He stared at me for a moment, then grimaced, and with a sigh put his sword away. What? I was too surprised to stop myself from speaking, and it quickly became apparent that I wasn't the only one.
What? Wait, Hijikata, are you sure about this? This kid saw, well, everything. That can't be good.
As he spoke, the man he had called Hijikata-san, his eyes narrowed, and the man called Hijikata-san frowned back at him.
Shut up. If you keep that up, you know what we're going to have to do.
I wasn't quite sure what they meant, but it was clear enough that what I'd seen was something they wanted to keep hidden. Oop, hold on. Still, the more they said, the more I understood, despite the fact that none of us wanted such a thing.
I really think it's going to come back to bite us in the ass if we let the kid go.
The way he's looked at me made me feel as if he'd read my mind. Perhaps it would be best if I didn't think too hard about things I wasn't supposed to be thinking about.
So, we should just kill people so they won't bother us later? No, I'll decide what we're going to do with the kid when we get back. I agree with the commander. If we remain here, then we are likely to be seen. Again.
The man they called Sato-san spoke with quiet confidence. He glanced around, possibly looking for other witnesses. Then he looked down at the creature he'd killed, almost as though he'd forgotten the whole ordeal.
If they have this sort of reaction to blood, then they don't seem like they'll be very practical. Damn it. I didn't think it'd gotten this bad.
He peered down at the corpse, his face an emotionless mask. When he looked back up at his companions, however, his eyes narrowed.
As for you two, drop the Hijikata and commander stuff. We're supposed to be keeping a low profile. Oh, come on. You can't be serious, Hijikata. You don't think that our dress blues here are a bit of a dead giveaway?
He was right. Even I had heard stories about a gang of cruel men in blue coats who cut people down in the streets. Apparently, I don't know why, but for some reason when you do Saito and Okita, Discord cuts out. But Hijikata is fine, apparently.
I don't know why.
Is it because they're too high?
Maybe.
Or is it because when they're speaking, it just interrupts somehow? But that doesn't make sense with Hijikata, though. What the fuck?
No, it doesn't.
Anyway. But... No, don't think. Ignore them. I did my best to be stern with myself, but it came out sounding more pleading than commanding. My mind swirled with thoughts and worries. I was being drawn into their world. A world where there is nothing strange in carrying on a normal conversation in the dead of night, with corpses for company.
What should we do with the bodies then? There doesn't seem to be any physical signs, but...
Hijikata thought for a moment before he spoke.
Just take their blues. Yamazaki can deal with the rest. As you wish. So I purposely waited for Saito to get done so that way I could do that. Did that actually help?
What?
Wait for Saito in the game to get done speaking before I did the lines.
Yeah, that helped. I think we have to turn the janky ass animation off.
Okay. Oh, sorry, folks.
I think we have to turn it off.
Yeah,
Just go full dubby.
yeah.
Uh,
Instead of
I
trying to,
think like in some cases we won't be able to tell who's who though.
yeah.
Fuck.
Oh shit.
Off.
Yay.
Let's make sure that's stayed enough. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Alright.
Another man cut down in the street, huh? Doing a great job, aren't we?
He gave a derisive bark of laughter.
So long as we keep our mouths shut, I don't think anyone will connect us with this.
He looked directly at me when he spoke, and I got the distinct feeling that his words weren't for his companions. It was common for people to be murdered and killed. It was a dangerous city, after all. I knew that, of course. But to see it happen, that was something else entirely. If death was such an easy thing in Kyo, I thought, then the city itself must surely be mad.
Ah, yes. We did save you, didn't we? Aren't you gonna thank us?
Huh? I didn't realize immediately that he was speaking to me. When I did, my eyes went wide. What do you mean, you saved me? Well, he did have a point. Despite their threats, they had saved my life. I stood up as steadily as I could manage, brushed some of the dirt off my clothes, and bowed. Thank you very much. Please take a drink every time Chizuru says thank you very much.
You got it, babe.
I apologize for not thanking you earlier. There was so much going on. I was a little confused. I glanced up at them, tentatively. The man called Saito was showing some confusion of his own. His eyes were wide and he had an expression I couldn't place. Hijikata looked as though he'd taken a bite of something sour. I know it seems weird to say that, but he told me I should say thanks, so I looked up. Saito and Hijikata were both looking pointedly at anything but me, and the third man was shaking with laughter.
Oh man. Well, my apologies. Certainly did tell you to, didn't I?
Wait. Fuck you up. Yes, thank you. Hold on.
He broke out in laughter again.
He broke out in laughter again, so much so that he was forced to wipe a few tears from his eyes as he straightened up.
Well, you're welcome. I'm Soji Okita. Nice to see a kid who knows how to be polite.
Thank you for helping me.
Take a drink!
I shall also take a drink. Not quite sure what else to do. I bowed again.
What the hell do you think you're doing, Okita? Commander, I understand your concerns, but we must move.
Whatever mirth I might have inspired, gone. The man called Saito spoke with quiet urgency. Ichikata nodded. The man who'd called himself Okita grabbed a hold of my wrist, gave me a smile, and began to lead me down the street. What was that?
Running.
His grip was a touch too tight to be friendly. His fingers like iron cables around my arm. There was no question about my situation.
You're our prisoner now.
If I ran, I would die. Quickly, at least, but still. Even if I did as I was told, my life was in the hands of these strange men. I set my jaw and stood up as straight as I could. My eyes met those of Saito as he looked up from the blood-stained coat.
It would be best if you prepared for the worst. I doubt this will end well for you.
His words were like a dagger in my stomach. What was going to happen to me? Was I going to die? As we walked through the cold Kyo night, I felt horror began to crawl its way up my spine once again. The cause of my horror wasn't the gruesome end that almost certainly awaited me, but something else entirely. I'd spoken with these men and watched them speak to one another, not feet from a still warm corpse soaked in blood. That I had done such a thing terrified me in an altogether in an altogether different way. Okay, that's weird. Perhaps, I thought, this is what it is like to go mad.
Chapter 1.
I should point out this is a month after Serizawa.
Yeah. After that bastard.
Serizawa was died in December, so this is like a month.
So this is January.
Yes. It soon will be not January. This is like the end of January. Was it morning? What had happened to me? Ah, right. All at once, the events of the previous night rushed back. If only
It said that he died in October of 1863?
Was it?
Yeah.
Why did my brain say December then?
I don't know, but they're in November, beginning of December, I guess.
Fuck.
Anyways, continue.
If only this was my room, I thought. They had tied me up quite well, so all I could do was wriggle. Wriggle? Did that say wriggle? Wriggle.
Yeah, wriggle.
Around in the bed.
There's an R in there.
Eh?
Wriggle. It's wiggle, but with an R in there.
Yeah, that's weird.
Wriggle.
That's weird.
Like Wrigley Field or something like that.
Okay. All I could do was wriggle around in the bed, twisting the blankets around me. I wished pointlessly I knew that I were back home, waking up in my warm futon. If only this were all a very strange nightmare. But it was not. I had met those men the night before, and they had taken me with them to the headquarters of the Shinsengumi. And yes, we have an encyclopedia. Shinsengumi, a military unit made up of ronin, the purpose of which was to restore public order in Kyo and counteract the local anti-shogunate forces. Why? What will happen to me now? I sighed and laid down to await my fate. It was at that moment that the door slid open and a kind-looking man stepped through.
I see you've woken up.
With a soft smile, he introduced himself as Inoue. Genzaburo Inoue, captain of the Shinsengumi's 6th Division, a native of Edo. He studied swordsplay with Kondo, Hijikata, and Okita. He is sometimes called Gen by his friends.
I'm sorry we have to treat you this way. Hold on a moment. I will loosen the ropes on you, okay?
His smile quirked as he removed my ropes, working quickly and skillfully. My wrists, however, were left bound. Thank you.
Take a shot!
Okay.
You said every time she says thank you.
I know. Take a shot of water or something. Not alcohol, you'll be dead.
Yes.
Do not alcohol. Do whatever drink, but not alcohol. You will die, I promise you.
I have this wonderful bottle of meat in the refrigerator.
Motherfucker. What did I just say?
Something about alcohol and do not. The rest is a bunch of. It's all haze.
Motherfucker. Anyway, I bowed and he let out a short laugh.
Now then, if you'll follow me,
Uh,
they have been discussing what to do with you since this morning. So for now, they've decided to hear exactly what it is that you saw last night.
okay. I nodded and did my best to stand up. My body's still a bit unsteady after being tied up all night. The man who called himself Inoue was very polite and almost kind, but it was quite clear that I was to do as I was told. He must have been able to guess my thoughts because he smiled at me and winked.
You needn't not worry. I know they seem very scary at first, but they're all really very nice.
Nice! Oh. I wasn't sure what to think of that. Even at home, I'd heard rumors of the vicious Shinsengumi. They weren't pleasant rumors. It was hard to imagine that the people in charge of such an organization were nice. Inoue led me to a room and opened a door. I stepped inside and found myself surrounded by the leaders of the Shinsengumi. Their eyes dug into me like so many knives. I froze, just past the threshold, and swallowed.
Good morning. I hope you slept well.
Oh, I remembered him. Okita-san. Perhaps it was because I was surrounded by strange men, but it was somehow comforting to see a face I recognized. I hope this expression is... Fuck you, Okita. I hope the expression on stream is the correct one.
It is.
Thank God. Back to normal. Soji Okita, captain of the Shinsengumi's 1st Division. He is a native of Edo, a brilliant swordsman who studied swordplay with Kondo-san and Hichikata-san. And from now on, I'm going to use the proper honorifics for them. Would you like a list? Because there is a list.
Well, let's hope we check it twice, right?
You want the list?
Yes, please.
Okay, hold on. There you go.
Alright, let's go ahead and bring that.
It is a bit messy, but I think you'll work with it. Considering you...
Oh, perfect.
There you go.
Oh, this is gonna be good.
I use this to figure out what a Haruka would call everybody and what everybody would call Haruka.
Hey!
So, like, it came in handy. Thank you, Fujita. Tokyo Fujika.
Yeah.
And, rest in peace.
Yes. Back to it!
Alright. Even if it was the face of a rather frightening man who was almost certainly willing and able to kill me, well, it wasn't particularly comfortable. I chose my words carefully.
Really?
His face twisted sideways into a grin.
How did I know that?
Because it's Soji! Fuck you, Okita.
Because when I went to have a look at you earlier, you didn't budge, no matter what I poked.
Wait. What? Okita's grin widened as my face turned red. Saito-san rolled his eyes. Hajime Saito, captain of the 3rd Division of the Shinsengumi. He is a native of Edo. He wields his sword in his left hand and fights with incredible skill.
He's only teasing you. Soji didn't go anywhere near your room.
Quite silent? Wait, quite silent. quite silently. Or am I going mad again?
Yes.
That doesn't help! I stared at Okita anyway. With his grin still playing about his face, he glanced over at Saito-san.
I just wanted to see you squirm. Not very nice of you, Hajime-kun, calling me out like that.
I don't think Saito-san did anything wrong. You, on the other hand...
Shut it. You sound like a bunch of kids.
Hijikata-san's voice brooked no further insubordination. Okita-san shrugged and was silent, but the smile stayed in his eyes. Toshizo Hijikata, the commander of the Shinsengumi. He is a longtime friend of Kondo-san and helped him form the Shinsengumi in Kyo. Kondo-san calls him Toshi. Oops.
Yeah. So,
this is...
Hijikata-san, this is your witness?
I'm trying to guess who it is. I'm gonna say it was Hiske, but I don't know.
So, Hijikata-san, this is your witness?
The man who spoke was... Well,
I
was right! It was Hiske! The man who spoke was... Well, he looked more like a boy than a man. Also, Hiske and Nagakura are both in purple.
Yeah.
It feels wrong.
Hiske looks like he has yellow on.
Yeah, he has yellow, but his undercolor is purple.
God
instead of blue.
God damn it.
I'd imagine the leaders of the Shinsengumi to be old, or at least middle-aged men, but they all looked quite young. They're all mostly under 30.
And they're all baggable.
What?
They're all basically, yeah, they're dateable.
Maybe in another version.
Eh.
In fact, they look rather like a group of young thugs.
He's a real stick, huh? Just a kid?
That was Todo-san. Heisuke Todo, captain of the Shinsengumi's 8th Division. He is from Edo. He is the youngest captain and is known for being particularly energetic. I think he's about 20. So is Saito and Okita.
She refers to him as Heisuke-kun, but you know.
Yeah, well, he does. That's later.
Okay.
On our way from my bed, Inoue had given me a brief description of the people I was about to meet. Supposedly, Todo-san was the youngest captain in the Shinsengumi.
You're calling him a kid, Heisuke? That's rich.
He chuckled as he spoke, but the way he looked at me suggested that there was a little he missed, despite his humor.
Right, you are. To anyone else, I bet the two of you just look like another pair of scrawny little brats.
The man across from him nodded with brows drawn, as if he was quite serious about the subject. However, I remembered Inoue-san telling me that two of the men in particular were somewhat immature, to put it nicely.
The one in the bandana being one of them.
He had said the one with short hair was Nagakura-san, and the other with longer hair was Harada-san. Shinpachi Nagakura, the captain of the Shinsengumi's 2nd Division. He is also from Edo. We should see a pattern right here. And is a skilled swordsman. He is upbeat and cheerful, and frequently helps to raise the morale of the men under his command. Sanosuke Harada, captain of the Shinsengumi's 10th Division and a native of Edo. He is
every time it says a native of Edo.
He is very skilled with the spear, which is his weapon of choice. There is a scar on his stomach from an attempt at honorable suicide.
Leave off, you grumpy old bastards. The hell I will, boy. The hell I will, boy. You think you could get away with talking to us like that? Besides, I think I'm hardly mature enough to be called old. Tenpachi, maybe, but not me. You son of a bitch! I thought we were friends! Oh, come on, Shin. When an adult gets so worked up over something like that?
Their back and forth had the feel of a routine that long predated my arrival. Oh boy, did it. But they couldn't quite hide the odd, inquisitive glance in my direction. I could sense something other than simple curiosity, though. A feeling of animosity or resentment, perhaps. Despite their cheerful levity, they had not forgiven my presence among them. I still think that should be forgotten. In both versions.
Translation issue?
Eh?
Translation issue?
It may be. Possibly.
Continuing.
And yes, it's still in the remakes because they basically took this version and then slightly edited it. Yeah. Because it was the same translator. They just switched companies. They're like, I'm just going to pluck this. And
Less work on our end, right, boys? Yeah!
Except for the stuff you still have to translate.
Ah!
Suddenly, I wanted very much to go home. I wanted to leave that place and never return. My chest tightened and I looked down at the floor, hoping that I might just wake up at home in my bed.
I apologize for all this frightening behavior. Please don't give them the pleasure of unsettling you.
Oh. His voice was calm and warm, and I felt myself relax, even if only a little.
Are you serious? You're the scariest of us all, Sanan.
Keisuke Sanan, a colonel of the Shinsengumi. He is a native of Edo. He is essentially a consultant to the chief of the Shinsengumi, Isami Kondo. There was the faintest trace of a smirk on Hijikata-san's lips. As he finished speaking, the rest of the men nodded solemnly in agreement.
Sanan-san.
I found it hard to believe this man could be as scary as they all seemed to think.
Oh, how crude. I can understand their feelings, but that even our demon of a commander should think so.
The man called Sanan-san smiled as he spoke and leaned back, his riposte delivered. Hijikata-san said nothing, but his own smile did not leave his face.
You're lucky to have a friend like Sanan, Toshi.
Hijikata-san and Sanan-san had sounded so cold when they'd spoken to one another. Not what I would have called friendly. Still, the man who had spoken had certainly sounded as though he thought they were friends.
Oh, my apologies. I haven't introduced myself yet. I am Isami Kondo, chief of the Shinsengumi.
Isami Kondo, one of the founders of the Shinsengumi, an organization created to help keep the peace in Kyo. He is originally from Edo.
Take a drink!
More drink! The most important man in the Shinsengumi, then.
Toshi over here is the commander, and Sanan is our colonel. Sanan-san? Yes, Sanan-kun is our colonel. Kondo-san? Why are you telling him all this?
I think Kondo calls everybody kun.
Yes. Why? Do you think that's a bad idea? Well, unless you really think this kid needs to know all of our secrets, then maybe you should keep your mouth shut. Exactly! Why bother anyway? We don't owe this kid anything. Anyway.
Harada glanced over at Kondo-san and let out a bark of laughter.
It's true, but it's not like telling him will hurt us.
Kondo-san had looked rather disappointed when Hijikata-san spoke, But he perked up at Harada-san's words. I'd scarcely known him for 5 minutes, but already I could see that he was well liked by his men. He had that sort of charisma that simply drew you in. A man who was impossible to hate. That's Harada!
Yeah. Well, let's get back to the business at hand. Can you run through what happened last night?
Kondo-san's glance moved to Saito-san, who gave a small nod and began to speak.
Last night, we were on patrol when we encountered some wandering Ronin. They drew steel, so we fought. Some of our men subdued the Ronin, but in doing so, exposed their failure.
As he finished, Saito-san turned to look at me. I swallowed and forced my mouth to open. I didn't see anything. Hijikata-san softened a little at my response, but Saito-san remained expressionless, and the smile on Okita-san's face didn't change.
Fuck you, Okita.
You sure you didn't see anything?
I didn't see anything. I hope that if I said it enough times, they might start to believe me.
Really? Well, if that's true, then I don't see what the problem is. Hold on a minute. I thought that Soji said you helped out our men or something.
No, that's not true. I glanced over at Okita-san, but his smile still hadn't changed. Whatever he was thinking was a mystery to me. Please press the button!
Fuck you, Okita.
Thank
This gets so broken.
Oh, yes. Back to normal. I was running away from the Ronin. And then some people with Shinsengumi uniforms showed up. Really, they sort of rescued me.
And that means you saw them slicing up those Ronin, right?
How do you know I'm not talking about the 3 that actually saved me? I couldn't exactly deny that. But I knew that if I just shut up then, they'd know for sure that I was lying.
So, in other words, you actually saw everything. The whole ugly business? The whole ugly business.
I was completely at a loss.
You got an honest heart. That's really not a bad thing, but...
I wasn't sure what to make of Harada-san's words. My presence had not been a good thing for the Shinsengumi. Would their next words be the ones that condemned me to death for being in the wrong place at the wrong time? My voice shook, but I knew I had to try. I won't tell anyone, I promise!
It seems unlikely this attack was mere chance. Then again, I have no reason to think that you're an enemy either. Even if you do not intend to tell anyone, you could be captured, interrogated. I doubt that you could withstand such torture. You goddamn snake!
His voice was still warm, but his words were cold, and I began to feel my chances at life slip away.
It's easy enough to stay quiet, but if someone should try to coerce you, you've no reason to keep our secrets. We don't have any kind of guarantee that you'll keep your word. It wouldn't be very smart to just let you go.
They had a point, but...
Let's just kill the kid. You want to keep someone quiet, then that's the only surefire way.
Fuck you, Okita.
But... I looked desperately at Kondo-san, who gave Okita-san a reproving look. Is this the right one? On the screen? No, on the screen. My little thingy.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I can't see it. Whoops. Actually, hold on.
Yeah, just bring up chat and keep an eye on it.
I have one monitor. I think
Yeah,
this is the
that's
one I
fair.
want, actually. Hold on. Can I... Let me just... make sure that's actually still working. Good, okay. There we go.
Perfect. Don't be so cold, Soji. What do we gain by murdering a civilian?
Okita-san's smile disappeared, and he looked down at the floor. Boop.
Oh, don't give me that look. I was just kidding.
Fuck you, Okuta.
Then perhaps it should have sounded like it.
Okita-san made an attempt at a derisive snort and looked intently at a wall, his face slightly red.
But surely there must be something we can do? After all, we are talking about a child here. I have no wish to kill him either, but we cannot discount the chance that he could reveal information about us.
Sanan-san paused for a moment, his brows furrowed, then turned to Hijikata-san.
I would like to hear the commander's opinion.
With the responsibility of his position invoked, Hijikata-san had no choice. He sighed and glanced around the room.
Last night, we had to kill some men who broke the code. This kid was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I imagine you mean that to say that's all there is to it? Well, he probably saw something, but I doubt he really understands what it was. Even so, this is serious. We have bigger things to think about. We have to keep this under wraps. If rumors get out that the soldiers of the Shinsengumi are thirsty for blood, that'd be problematic.
Shinpachi? Doesn't she usually say Nagakura?
Let's see here. No.
No?
I mean, it's Nagakura-kun normally, but this time it's Senpachi?
Wait, for Chizuru?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yes.
Nagakura-kun?
Let's see.
That doesn't seem right.
Nagakura-san.
There you go, Nagakura-san. Why does this say Shinpachi?
Yeah, Hijikata-san, Okita-san, Saito-san, Hijikata-kun, Harada-san, and Nagakura-san.
Well, I'm gonna say Nagakura-san then. Or is it because... Have they said Nagakura? Maybe it's because they haven't said Nagakura. I'm gonna go with Nagakura. Nagakura-san's words made sense, and they all knew it. Hijikata-san's face looked grim.
I think Soji has a point. Still, I do whatever Hijikata-san and Kondo-san tells me to do. I think we ought to let him go.
Todo-san looked troubled.
It's not like he knows why they went nuts, you know?
Wait, what did he mean by that? To be honest, I hadn't really thought about it. Hijikata-san saw my eyes go wide, and I saw his narrow. They flicked to Todo-san.
Got it, Heisuke.
No sooner were the words out of Hijikata-san's mouth than Todo clapped both hands over his own.
Uh-oh. Well, this is just gonna make it even harder for us to just let you go. A man should always be prepared to face death. You should make peace with yours.
A man? Wait. Oh! They thought I was a boy. No, that's not why I went, oh.
Oh no.
No, my brain went, wait, didn't, in the remix, isn't this Harada's line? The whole
I
thing
don't know.
about the death of man, oh fuck. With everything else that had happened, I'd completely forgotten how I was dressed.
Very true. A brave death is always an option. Whenever I was younger, I committed honorable suicide. Well, at least tried to. It didn't really stick though, did it, Sano?
Their jokes were barbaric, but they both broke into raucous laughter at them. Saito-san did his best to ignore them.
Hijikata-san, since we can't seem to reach a consensus, can I send the child back to his room?
That is incorrect for Saito.
Hijikata-san?
Yeah, he's usually commander.
Fuchuko?
Yeah, Fukucho, or aka commander.
It says Fukucho or Hijikata-san.
Alright, then I haven't paid attention that much then. Because I usually hear Fukucho. As he spoke, Saito-san turned to look at me.
If you hear something you shouldn't while you're here, then we would have no choice but to kill you.
He was right. If I remained with them, then I could easily hear something I wasn't supposed to. I didn't think he'd mention it for my sake. Only as a possible concern for the Shinsengumi. But I was still glad he'd brought it up.
True. Can you take care of him?
Saito-san nodded.
I agree. There are too many careless men here. Come on, Sonnen. Let's see, I'm looking at... Yeah. Come on, Sano. What are you looking at me for?
No, but Sanan.
It's Sano, I see.
Sanan.
I know, but I see Sano. Oh, right. Shit. Son. Oh, come on, son. What are you looking at me here for? That ought to be pretty obvious. We're all in charge of being careless. Oh, except for you, Hesuke. Hey, God, it was just a mistake, alright?
I could hear Todo-san's voice raise as everyone turned to look at him. He looked at them for a bit, then turned to me and mumbled in a voice I could barely hear.
I'm sorry.
I was still afraid that I was about to die, so I couldn't bring myself to tell him no harm had been done. But he looked as though he'd meant what he said, so I gave him an awkward nod. It was the most I could manage.
Shall we go?
Alright. I
Keep
can
him
have...
up. Status the condition.
Status condition?
That's what it looked like.
I think it did. And, I guess we're gonna go here. After they had taken me back to my room, I sat there for a time, looking down at my bound hands. The rumors I'd heard had said the Shinsengumis were cruel, vicious men, but they seemed much more human than that. Then again, even as I sat there deciding whether or as I sat there, they were deciding whether or not to kill me. I don't think they want to kill me, but it seems like they think they might not have a choice. If I didn't defend myself somehow, I'd most likely be killed. I don't know how I'm supposed to convince them, though. However they might have felt about me, it was clear that their priority was the welfare of the Shinsengumi. Oh, right. They all still thought I was a boy. Perhaps if I told them I was a girl, they might reconsider. Or perhaps they wouldn't. Or perhaps they would make my predicament worse somehow. I had no idea what I should do next.
Attempt to explain?
Find a way to escape.
Wow.
There was nothing for it. I had to try and escape. And that meant I needed to get moving immediately. Staying in that room wasn't likely to improve my chances. Fortunately, they hadn't bothered to tie me up completely again. Only my hands were bound. That would slow me down, certainly, but so long as I could move my legs, I definitely had a chance. Alright, now the exit is... I cast my memory back to when they brought me into the building the night before. Right. It should work. It had to work. I stood up. Holding my breath, I edged towards the door. Leading this way was rather rude, but I hardly had a choice. With my toe, I reached for the door. I was almost there when suddenly it flew open all on its own, revealing...
Hello. What?
I stumbled straight into Kondo-san.
Oh my. Well, that was rather bold. You meant to run away, I assume? Trying to run away was not wise. It will only make your situation more difficult.
His voice was calm and not unfriendly, but his eyes were as cold as ice.
How can you see behind that?
God damn it.
Looking like a fucking rock-type gym leader over here.
Too late, I realized why they hadn't bothered to tie me up again. They'd been watching me.
I told you once, and I won't do it again. Run, and I'll cut you.
His voice was low and filled with quiet rage.
Sorry, but now we gotta kill you. Can't trust a kid who can't keep a promise.
Okita-san smiled. He didn't look very sorry. I
Stayed where you were.
ran for it.
Seriously, you dumb.
I had no choice but to run. If I was going to die anyway, then I had nothing to lose by trying to escape. Slipping around a stunned Kondo-san, I took off down the hallway.
Did you really think you could escape?
He snatched me from the floor in one smooth motion, with the grace of a great cat.
Are you sure that's about Toshi and not Okita?
Let me go!
You think I'm stupid? You'll just try to run again. No.
His voice was angry. I squirmed and twisted, but I couldn't escape. But I don't want to die! My voice threatened to waver with fear, but I hoped the volume would mask it. And there's something I have to do!
Hmm? And what's that, huh? What makes a girl put on pants and run around Kyoto pretending she's a boy?
Thank you, Mage.
Oh, alright. I was wondering when he was gonna press it.
Uh? He did not look happy. Did you just say girl? I was scared. There was no denying it. Zanon-san looked at us and nodded.
I see. Then you really were a girl.
I am dog duty for my brother's puppy. Oh!
Oh!
That explains.
That explains a lot.
Puppy! Mage! You have
Post
puppy
it in
tax.
Discord.
We need a puppy tax.
We need the pet tax, yes.
Yeah. Huh?
Come on, you really thought putting on a pair of pants was gonna fool us? Even an idiot could see that you're a girl.
What? Had they really known all along? I wasn't quite sure what to think.
Oh, Isami Kondo, you fool. This is the embarrassment of a lifetime. How could I have not realized?
Well, perhaps they hadn't all known. His reaction, I confess, made me feel a little bit better. God damn it, Dad. We love you, but, sometimes brain don't work.
Oh, God damn it. You almost got killed for it, whatever it is. Maybe it's time for you to spill your guts, kid.
I looked back at him and nodded. Woo! We got romance points. There I was.
There you were, once again.
Surrounded by the leaders of the Shinsengumi. I switched to this one because I don't know what else to put.
I did think that you were rather pretty, but to think that you were in fact a lady all this time?
Kondo-san was nodding his head solemnly over and over, as if he were agreeing with a very intelligent suggestion.
Once you know she's a girl, she really doesn't look like a boy at all, does she? Hesuke.
Hesuke. Something about that seemed to impress Todo-san.
Then we bound a girl and left her for an entire night? Oh dear.
I wonder who was responsible for that.
It wasn't me. I'm as innocent as the day I was born.
Shut up, Solji. Look, the game won't clarify it, but the anime did. Like, particularly the anime did.
Also,
Fuck you, Okuta.
I don't know who at Studio Dean thought that needed to be clarified as to who tied up Chizuru. I don't know who did it, but you have established lore. He looked at me, his eyes concerned. Each of them took the news differently.
well, she claims to be a girl, but it's not like we have any actual proof, right? Nagakura, keep it in your pants.
Proof? Oh, that's not the one you should be worried about. Harada-san laughed. Nagakura-san grumbled to himself under his breath.
Proof? Really? Not obvious enough for you, huh? Alright. Would you feel better if I stripped her down?
Like I said, Nagakura wasn't the one to be afraid of.
Boys.
Please don't.
No, you will absolutely not. Even suggesting such a thing is preposterous.
Kondo-san shut up before I even finished, his face bright red, but Harada-san's words hadn't had any malice behind them. Where in Discord do I put the pet text? General, I guess?
Yeah, because there's no...
I don't think I have a pet text thing.
Gonna have to do it after tonight, I guess.
I guess so.
I just figured it was the quickest way to settle the question.
I mean, he's technically not wrong, but Sano! He shrugged and settled back into his seat. Nagakura-san had crossed his arms and his brows were knit.
Well, if you really are a girl, then killing just kind of feels wrong.
Yeah, random shit.
Yep. It doesn't matter. If we have to kill her, then she dies.
Hijikata-san's words left no room for argument.
Ah, god damn it.
What?
Gender is irrelevant. Killing in general is wrong. We were organized to protect the public good in the city of Kyoto. We would we would ill serve the public good by murdering civilians in cold blood. Ah, we were organized to protect the public in the city of Kyoto. We would ill serve the public good by murdering civilians in cold blood. Yeah, I think that was a translation issue.
Wait, where?
It's okay. We're organized to protect the public good in the city of Kyoto. We would ill serve the public good by murdering civilians in cold blood.
Oh.
Hey.
Hold on, I need to see that.
Oh, it's a dachshund.
Oh! It's a cute puppy. It is so cute. Oh,
Yes.
I want to pet him.
Yeah, it says the public good twice, and the first time it just doesn't make sense.
Oh, I see.
All right, so
Okay, her. I want to pet her.
it's a dachshund. Yeah.
I want to pet her.
I had a teacher in high school that had dachshunds.
Oh my god.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
We would else okay.
So sorry.
Yeah, but if this is a girl or a boy, but if this girl or boy is a threat to the peace, then that's a horse of a different color, huh?
He had that grin again.
God damn it, Okita.
Fuck you, Okuta.
The Shinsengumi didn't enjoy a shining reputation already. If rumors began to spread that their men were thirsty for blood, things weren't likely to go well for them. They wouldn't be able to operate in Kyo, and with no one to protect the people, the city would eventually fall into chaos. I could see in their eyes that each one of them knew full well the consequences rash actions could have.
Well then, we only need to determine if you are a threat. So, will you tell us your side of the story, young lady?
I could feel all their eyes upon me. The room went silent. My name is Chizuru Yukimura. I told them everything. How I lived in Edo. How had I come to Kyo to find my father.
Oh, then you're from Edo as well. And you came all the way here to Kyoto to find your father?
Someone take a shot.
Why? Oh, you're from Edo. That's the good shit.
I could see emotion welling up in his eyes. Ah, give Kondo-san a hug.
Aw. What business did your father have in Kyoto?
My father's a doctor. His name is Kodo Yukimura, and he specializes in Western medicine.
What?
Huh? The moment my father's name crossed my lips, the atmosphere in the room changed.
Yeah, stops.
The music stops and another starts. Now we're back in this situation.
Oh my. So the good Dr. Kodo has a daughter?
You know my father? I wasn't sure what the sudden silence meant, only that the revelation of my parentage had caused a pronounced change in their behavior. It was Saito-san who finally broke the silence.
The Shinsengumi is currently attempting to determine the whereabouts of Dr. Kodo Yukimura.
You're after my father? Why?
Oh no, you got us all wrong. We're not after him.
Oh, I see. Tension that I hadn't noticed appear began to dissipate. Wait, what? Tension that I hadn't noticed appear began to dissipate.
He's a supporter of the fellow supporter of the Shogun, but well, he kind of disappeared a little while ago. there's a reasonable chance that the enemies of the Shogun have identified him as a threat.
My eyes went wide, but Sato-san kept talking as if I'd done nothing.
There is a chance, also, of course, that he's still alive. Doctors trained in Western medicine are valuable and rare.
I wasn't sure what else to do, so I nodded. My heart pounded in my chest, threatening to burst out onto the floor. Father. Was he safe?
But with you, we have a much better chance of finding the good doctor.
Huh? San continued. Apparently, my father had only visited a small number of times. I understood then what he'd meant. It would be difficult for them to track down someone they barely knew.
You are his daughter, however. You ought to be able to recognize him no matter how he may have disguised himself, yes?
Yes, I could. I nodded as I spoke and gave him what I hoped was a steady, reassuring smile.
What? Well, if she is his daughter, then we can't kill her, can we? Which means more work for me.
His eyes added. They narrowed as he looked down at me.
If you swear you'll forget about what you saw last night, then we will look after you until we can find your father. Fair? I promise that the Shinsengumi will do whatever they can to help you find Dr. Kodo.
I'll say right now, it's Kodo-san.
Oh, Kodo-san.
Thank you so much. Take a drink.
I also have thanks to give as well for whoever it was that corrected my mistake.
God damn it. I'd never imagined something like this. Not only had I survived, but the music returned to being happy, so I can switch to this one. I found my first decent lead.
Yay! You must be pretty glad that we won't be killing you, huh? Well, won't be killing you just now, at any rate. God damn it.
Fuck you, Okuta.
He gave me that same wolfish grin. There was no denying that my situation was still less than desirable, but at that moment I didn't care. I'm very glad. I'd been through a lot, but at last I'd found help, and where I'd never have expected it, the Shinsengumi. Kyo hadn't been kind to me, even though I'd been there less than a day, but it looked as though my fortunes were taking a turn for the better. I still had a very long way to go, and I had worries aplenty, but it was important to stay optimistic.
I prefer to place you in the custody of the Judiciary Commissioner or the Aizu rather than keeping you in a house full of men, but...
Aizu Domain, one of Japan's more influential clans. They were related by blood to the Tokugawa clan and were part in charge of the office of the Kyo Military Commissioner. Kondo-san let the sentence hang in the air and looked at me, his arms folded. It was clear that I had no choice but to stay with the Shinsengumi.
Should you require anything, you only need to ask. We will do what we can to accommodate you.
Oh. His expression didn't change, but his words were unexpectedly warm. I looked away from him awkwardly, but I still felt the heat rise in my cheeks.
Aww.
Thank you. Drink?
Drink.
Drink.
And I just took one too. God damn it.
Again, do not do this with alcohol, you'll die.
I have a shot of water every time Chizuru-chan says
Thank
you. You'll be very hydrated. Wow. Huh. I guess we'll have to be a lot nicer to you now that we, know that you're a girl. Hey, you're always nice to the lady, Shin. Sure did take long for you to change your tune once you figured out she was a girl, right? Ah, whatever. Having a lady here at headquarters is sure gonna brighten things up, huh?
Say that again with Haruka. She takes care of your shits and your madness. Headquarters. The headquarters of the Shinsengumi. It was located in the Mibu area and was where members lived and took their meals. I wasn't entirely sure that would be the outcome.
Well, we can hardly treat her as one of the soldiers. Something else must be done with her. And make her a page or something. You want an assistant, Kondo-san? How about you, Sanan-san?
Page, an assistant to a samurai or noble, traditionally a young man. He gave a small shrug. Whatever was done with me, it seemed he no longer cared.
You're about to care, though. Ah, come on now, Hijikata. It's your idea, so you can't just pawn her off on someone else. He has a point. Ah, excellent. I believe we can trust Toshi with her.
Kondo-san's face split in a wide smile. He slapped his leg in agreement.
Well, there you have it, Hijikata-san. I hope you'll take good care of her.
Sanan-san smiled, had more than a little of a mocking twist to it.
You sons of bitches.
As I watched their back and forth, some of my earlier relief began to ebb away. What was going to happen to me?
February 1864.
Yeah. I slid the door open and a breath of cool morning air met me. Clumps of thick clouds trundled silently over the city, an unusually strong wind driving them along. It's cold today.
I wonder why then this game is called Kyoto Wins. It's a mystery.
Oh, what's my second one? I forget. Third one. What's my third one?
Let's see, we
it's
have
the
Kyoto.
fan.
Right.
It's the fan.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how long I get to use this one, but I have it. Back to normal.
I've got to make a change now on something. Continue.
It's cold today. I shivered a bit and grabbed a jacket from near the door to wrap myself around myself. A week had passed since I'd begun living in the headquarters of the Shinsengumi. That's why I said it was the end of January.
Oh.
Yeah.
It had only been a couple of months then since Serizawa-san died.
I think I need to watch season 3 again with the, not the rips, but like the proper DVD.
Right.
Because I think there were some subtitles that didn't come through. They allowed me to roam around the compound as I pleased, and I was given a room of my own.
Yay!
They weren't the best accommodations, but given that they'd very nearly murdered me instead, I thought it's best not to complain.
Wise choice.
Still, I looked down at my feet on the cold floor and sighed. Do I really need to dress like this all the time? They'd given me a place to live for the time being, but it hadn't been without conditions.
The Shinsengumi will look after you, but we can't have a woman running around our headquarters.
As he explained, if rumors were to spread that the Shinsengumi were keeping a woman in their compound, tongues would begin to wag. He might even bring the people who were after my father to the Shinsengumi in search of me. Of course, they hadn't been able to determine whether or not he'd been attacked. There were a great many questions left unanswered. We could ill afford any reckless decisions. Or so Hijikata-san had told me.
In other words, we need you to keep pretending to be a man. I doubt that's what you wanted to hear, but You do it, or you get out, or you're out on your ass. Clear?
His reasoning was sound. But perhaps more than that, I knew he was looking out not only for the Shinsengumi, but also for the safety of my father and myself. I didn't have a choice, of course, but knowing that made me... But knowing that made following his orders at least somewhat more palatable.
I doubt that you would do so intentionally, but to the presence of a woman could disrupt morale, so to speak.
His tone suggested he was joking, but it was clear that he was telling the truth as well. And in another universe, that morale is not disrupted because Haruka scares half of the fucking soldiers.
For that reason, only we, the Shinsegumi's leadership, will know the truth of your situation.
If we were to get out, there was no telling how fast rumors could spread, or where to. I had to stay a boy. Alright then. What should I do while I'm here?
Nothing. You're gonna get a room and you're gonna stay in it. Really? I could have sworn we decided she was gonna be someone's page.
Hijikata-san
Fuck you,
turned...
Okta.
Hijikata-san turned towards Okita-san and his eyes narrowed.
Soji, keep your tongue in your mouth or I'll cut the fucking thing off.
Before long? I've been there for a week. I guess I don't have much of a choice. I'd prefer otherwise, of course, but I'll do what I have to. I wasn't quite sure what to make of it yet, but since I'd been dressing like a boy, I'd grown rather used to the feel of wearing pants, and of having the kodachi my father had given to me always at my hip. He presented me with it when I was only a child, and impressed upon me at least some sense of importance. Oh. Sword.
Neat.
Neat. Supposedly,
Neat.
supposedly it had been in the Yukimura family for generations. As such, I was forced to take lessons in swordplay, so I knew which end was meant for the enemy, but I feel like that's obvious. I have never much cared for weapons. They hurt people, of course, but it was more than that, at least for me. For as far back as I can remember, any wounds I suffered healed at an incredible rate. Small cuts would disappear overnight. As a child, I thought nothing of it, but as I grew older, I began to realize that I was not quite normal. When I asked my father, he told me that it was a gift from the gods, but that I should tell no one of it. I didn't tell anyone, of course. I was afraid they would treat me like a monster if they did. Ever since then, I'd done my best not to get hurt. I stayed as far away from blades as I could, and before I realized it, I was rather afraid of them.
Black.
Yawning.
Oh.
Dressing as a man all the time was frustrating, as was carrying a sword, but it was my condition that worried me the most. Still, that wasn't the only thing on my mind. The rank-and-file soldiers had been treating me coldly. I'm not just imagining it, right? I'd heard having a private room was a rare privilege, even for the captains. For a child to appear out of nowhere and be given better treatment than their own captains? It was a little wonder the soldiers resented me. I suppose I can't really blame them. Also, quite simply, I felt bad. I was enjoying the hospitality, such as it was, of the Shinsengumi, and so I felt I should help them in some way. But I knew nothing of soldiers and their ways. There wasn't much opportunity for me to learn either. Hijikata-san had instructed me to leave my room as little as possible. From time to time, the captains or other officers would send me on one errand or another, but I was nothing approaching a page. Most of the duties they gave me were things more suited for a maid than a soldier, and it made the rest of the men even more resentful for what appeared to be special treatment. They're just watching me. To make sure I kept my mouth shut, they took turns keeping watch over me. My mistakes could mean serious trouble for them, so they were doing their best to keep me away from the other soldiers. Then again, perhaps I was just a poor actor. Their soldiers almost never spoke to me, but when they did, it was difficult for me to act manly. All too often, the captains had to step in to cover for me. Each time they did, it made it look as though I couldn't even manage to speak for myself, and I felt even worse. If I'm really going to stay here, I'd like to be friends with at least some of them. But I can't exactly tell them the truth, can I? Indeed, I couldn't, and so I had no choice but to stay out of the way and keep to myself. It wasn't a pleasant existence, and I was beginning to feel depressed. If I'm supposed to stay out of the way, then I shouldn't be leaving my room, but I very much wanted to go look for my father. However, even after a week had passed, I was still not allowed to leave headquarters. I come to Kyo in search of my father, but for the time being, it seemed that search had been stopped in its tracks. Perhaps, I thought, I could talk to Hijikata-san. If he would give me permission to look for my father... Oh no, that's right. Hijikata-san had left on a trip to Osaka several days before. Perhaps I can sneak out while he's not here. That's a death sentence. I wasn't sure what to do. What do you think it is?
Stay put.
Stay put. If I was honest, staying in the room was awfully boring. No, you need to follow Hijikata-san's orders, Chizuru. I shook my head to clear it and tried to forget about temptation. I didn't want to cause any more trouble than I already had. The consequences would not be good. I looked around the room, feeling somewhat forlorn. It was a very nice room, but it was almost completely empty. Not uncomfortable per se, but not comfortable either. And there was nothing with which I might make the time pass. And here I thought I'd gotten used to doing nothing. My father's business had taken him out of the house frequently, sometimes for days at a time, and so I'd spent a good deal of time home on my own. This isn't quite the same, though. Back then, I always knew he'd be back eventually. Waiting for someone you knew would return and waiting for what you didn't quite know are two very different things. When will I be able to start looking for father again, I wonder? I let out another frustrated sigh.
Yukimura, I've been looking for you. I didn't think you'd be here.
Kondo-san smiled brilliantly at me as he stepped into the room, a tray in one hand. I'm sorry? I wasn't sure what to make of his words, so instead I gave him an awkward sort of bow. He stepped further into the room, still smiling, then paused and gave me an odd look.
Wait a moment. Is this your room?
Until then, I hadn't thought about it, but since they brought me in, this was the first time I'd seen Kondo-san. For now, yes. The moment the words were out of my mouth, his eyes went wide.
Oh, no, then I barged into a woman's room without announcing myself.
Kondo! Oh, no, it's fine.
No.
I gestured at the rest of the room as he took a step back towards the door. After all, it isn't as though there's anything here I wouldn't want you to see. He still seemed unsure, so I beckoned for him to come back in.
Well, we decided that you would be Toshi's pace, so I assumed your room would be next to his.
Hijikata-san had, of course, failed to tell Kondo-san that I had yet to be made a page. I wasn't surprised. It wasn't too hard to see what was going on. I'm not really prepared to entertain, but you're welcome to come in if you like. An official invitation seemed to dispel most of his concern, and his smile creased his face again.
God damn it, come on.
What happened? What are you doing?
No. Oh, I was just clearing a notification. Oh, no, you needed feeling nervous around me. While you're here, you're a guest of the Shinsengumi.
With that, he placed the tray on the floor between us. This is... As I looked down at the tray, I could barely stifle a sudden squeal of delighted excitement. Delighted excitement. Kono-san coughed, doing his best to look nonchalant.
Do you, like sweets? I found some of these in the cupboard, and I thought...
I do. In fact, I like these especially. Some of the tension left his face, and he grinned at me. On the plate, he'd arranged several colorful candies in a cup of warm green tea. Konpeito!
So, what do you think? If you'd like to have some, go ahead.
He looked right at me and smiled hopefully, as if to say,
I hope you like them.
Thank you very much. Oh, God.
Take a drink.
Ah!
Good old Nuka-Cola, a.k.a. Dr. Pepper.
Oh, yeah. That would be the equivalent, wouldn't it?
23 authentic blend of 23 flavors.
I reached out cautiously and took one of the candies. It had been a while since I had any sweets. Something about the small, colorful candies seemed so adorable that I couldn't help but smile. Kono-san didn't laugh at my admittedly childish reaction. Instead, he just smiled warmly. Literally, we are probably reminding him of his daughter at home.
Oh, yes. I've heard you're not allowed to go outside.
That's true. I could see his brows draw together in concern. There's no point rushing it, though. If I ran off without their permission, I'd almost certainly cause problems for the men who'd promised to help me. For the time being, I would simply have to be patient.
Come here. I know how he appears, but Toshi is the sort of man who can't help but care for others. Sure has a funny way of expressing it.
Hijikata-san? Caring? That didn't seem right, but then again, I told myself Kondo-san knows much better than you. This would have been an option in the remakes. I forget for who and who.
He may seem a little strict with you, but it's only because he has your best interests at heart.
That made a little more sense. I think if the commander doesn't think it's time for me to go out yet, then I trust him. I hadn't spent much time with him, but it wasn't hard to see that Hijikata-san was no fool. He was intimidating, of course, but he was a good person.
Oh, I'll go ahead and speak with Toshi. I know that you're bored, but I have to ask you to hang on for a little bit longer.
Alright, thank you.
Another
That's
drink.
I think this makes up for me being distracted.
Yes, it does. I'm so glad we added this.
He hadn't done much, to be honest, but Kondo-san's visit had cheered me up greatly. I suppose I was rather easily pleased if an afternoon with warm tea was all it took to make me happy. Whoosh! I watched shadows stripped off my wall as the orange light of the sun painted my room the color of autumn leaves. How long am I going to do this? Solitude was proving detrimental to any sort of continued optimism. All my thoughts eventually turned dark and hopeless. It was depressing, but most of all it was frustrating. How could I let myself be discouraged so easily? I guess we'll... that one? Yeah, this one. We'll go with this one. Fairly easily, actually. I've been swept up in a frightening world I didn't understand and couldn't possibly control. I can't possibly figure out what's happening to Father if I'm stuck here. Only Hijikata-san could give me permission to leave, and he's gone. All I could do was wait. Lamenting things I couldn't change wouldn't improve my situation, and would arguably make it worse. Still, there was at least one thing I had to be thankful for. At least they'd all been nice to me. I knew I couldn't trust the men of the Shinsengumi completely. They were, after all, men who could take a life in the blink of an eye. It would be all too easy for the next life they took to be mine. They're nice men, deep down. Right? Soji.
Has anybody called you gullible yet?
Huh? My voice froze in my throat. I turned slowly to find Okita standing behind me. What are you doing here?
Oh, you didn't notice? Well, it's my turn to keep watch.
Of course I was under surveillance, which meant... Did you hear everything I said?
Huh?
He said nothing, only smiled and blinked. What?
Laconically?
Laconically?
I
Laconically? Oh god, what is it with these words? To the internet! What the fuck does this mean?
Using or involving the use of a minimum of words, concise to the point, or of seeming rude or mysterious. Laconic phrase or laconism is a concise, yeah, so it's basically just, be to the point, or using a minimum of words.
Alright.
So, a minimum number of blinks.
I guess!
Is he trying to avoid the weeping angels?
Oh, don't bring up weeping angels. Don't bring them up.
Why?
No!
What are you gonna do about it, huh?
Ah, fuck off. He heard me. He had definitely heard me.
Nah, no, I didn't.
I wanted to scream, but before I could open my mouth, Saito-san stepped out from behind a door.
I think that's enough fraternizing, Soji.
Were you here the whole time, too?
I had only arrived moments ago.
Oh, thank goodness. I pressed my hand to my chest in an effort to calm my pounding heart.
Calm down, damn it! Calm down!
I'm sorry for screaming like that.
It's nothing. At any rate, it isn't as if you were saying anything that might cause trouble for you.
Then he had heard me. It's true, I didn't say anything, bad. But still, it's embarrassing being caught talking to oneself. I was so embarrassed. Saida-san looked from me to Okita-san and back, and his brows drew together almost
Perce-
per-
perceptibly.
perceptibly. Thank you. Imperceptibly.
I came to tell you that dinner is ready, but am I interrupting something?
Uh. Oh, no, nothing at all. I shook my head empathetically.
I had intended to wait until you and Soji had finished your discussion, but
He let the words hang in the air, but his eyes said that he determined we'd continue forever if he didn't interrupt. I'd opened my mouth to say, I'm not sure what, when Heisuke-kun shot through the... Wait,
SK-kun shot through the door.
I think she says son at this point. I don't know. Shot through the door. The moment he saw us, however, his face fell.
It is Heisuke-kun over here.
I know, but there's a specific
It's
point.
dinner time!
I know, but there's a specific point, and I don't know if it's here or not.
My apologies, Heisuke, but I'll be there presently. Yeah, you too, Chizuru. Well, hurry up or I'll be gone by the time you get there.
Sorry, Toto-san. I'll be there as soon as I can. He turned to leave, but stopped just as he reached the door. I saw him purse his lips for a moment, and then he spoke.
Look, you could just drop the whole Toto thing, okay? Just call me Heisuke. Everyone else does.
Are you sure?
Yeah, why not? I mean, we're about the same age anyway.
Alright, I'll do that then, Heisuke-kun. He turned and gave me a wide grin.
Great, that sounds better already. Well, shall we go?
Whoosh.
And they just left Okita behind?
Nah, he'll follow. He's a cat.
You're late.
The moment we stepped into the dining hall, Nagakura-san and Harada-san looked up at us.
You kids are late. Who's gonna answer to my crying stomach?
Kids are so appropriate because they're all younger than them.
You mean growling, Shin? Really, he's so simple sometimes. You guys apologized to my stomach. He wanted to dig in, but I said, no, we gotta wait for them. You are such a softie, Shin. Alright, you guys. It's time to eat, and that means every man for himself. Man, there's barely enough here to feed a kid, let alone a man, so I'll just have to take yours. Survival of the fittest. This food is mine. Hey, why do you always steal my food? It's cause the difference in size, kid. I've got a bigger body, so that means I need more food than you.
Duh, he has a mountain of fucking rice. Nagakura.
Ah, that's not a mountain. That's more like a molehill. I could easily eat a mountain of rice if they would let me. Well, I'm still growing, old man, so I gotta eat more too. Sorry you had to see this, Chizuru. They're always like this.
I've, gotten used to it.
Is acceptance such insanity somewhat frightening? That food is mine.
Oh. Why aren't you taking anything?
Yeah, I'm good. If I get too full, then I start getting slow. Hey, what do you mean slow? Ah, whatever, I'm taking it. Go for it. As long as I get a little sip of sake, I'm good. Then I guess I'm going with sake as well. Don't worry about being a freeloader or anything, Chizuru. Just eat your little heart out, Chizuru-chan. Just eat your little heart out, okay?
I know. I can't help but feel a little bad, though.
Well, if you let that get to you, you're going to lose. You have to protect what's yours.
Okay. It was actually rather fun to have dinner with such a strange group of men. That's a sentence. I'd eaten alone for so long that to do so with others was frightening and exhilarating all at once.
See? There's that smile. You ought to do that more often. We aren't gonna hurt you.
Harada-san. His mouth curled up into an honest smile of his own. Had I really looked so down? Perhaps they were all trying to cheer me up. I wasn't quite sure how to feel. There was a part of me that felt bad, while another part felt a certain amount of joy. The joy seemed to be winning out, however, and I was smiling to myself when Inoue-san stepped in from the hall.
Gentlemen, do you have a moment?
As usual, his voice was warm, but in his eyes there was a level of solemnity. Solemnity.
It's solemn but nitty.
Solemnity I'd never seen before, at least during our thus far brief acquaintance. The warmth of the room disappeared almost immediately.
I have just received word from Osaka. Sanan-san has been gravely injured in battle.
What? They all went quiet.
I did not hear you say what.
Oh, great. Inoue-san continued. Sanan-san had gone to investigate a report of several Ronin harassing a cloth merchant. He'd managed to drive them off, but not before being wounded by the Ronin. Is he going to be alright?
It wasn't his sword arm that was wounded. He's almost certain to survive, but wielding a blade will be difficult for him.
Oh, thank goodness. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding, but it seemed that the rest of the room didn't share my relief.
Yeah. A yawn tried to escape. He should be returning here in a few days. Now, if you will please excuse me, I must speak with Kondo-san.
He turned as he spoke, his last words delivered over his shoulder, and was gone. It was Saito-san who eventually broke the awkward silence.
A sword is not made to be carried in a single hand. If his injury is severe, he may never carry a blade again.
Oh. At last I understood. Yes, Sana-san was alive, but without the ability to wield a sword. Sanan-san, the man, had survived the encounter with the Ronin, but Sanan-san, the warrior, had not.
Oh. Fighting with a single hand would mean less strength behind his blows. Against an opponent of similar skill, he would almost certainly lose.
Of course. Fighting with one hand would be fighting at half strength. Even a skilled warrior would have trouble. Okita-san sighed.
If push comes to shove, he'll have to take it. I don't think Sanan-san's gonna just give up. Don't jinx him, Soji. It's gonna look bad if the officers started joining the Corps.
Oh yeah, Core. Brain, remember that. Huh? Wait, that didn't make any sense. But what do you mean Core? Isn't that the Shinsengumi? I didn't understand. What was the Core if it wasn't the Shinsengumi itself? But the way they said it, they couldn't have been referring to the Shinsengumi.
Well, normally, yeah. You might call the Shinsengumi the Elite Volunteer Corps. When we talk about the Corps, though, we... Heisuke.
Huh? Before I could move, Harada-san was on his feet and halfway across the room. I barely had time to grasp before he drove his fist into Heisuke-kun.
Oh, no. Oh.
I didn't hear that.
Oh.
Heisuke-kun, are you alright?
Ah.
Nagakura-san sighed.
Sano, you're overreacting. Heisuke, think before you open your damn mouth.
His eyes were cold and hard as he turned to look straight at me. It was clear Heisuke-kun had told me something I shouldn't have. He shouldn't have, but what?
Sorry.
After a moment, Harada-san gave the younger man a curt nod of apology, and Heisuke-kun responded with a quick, pained smile.
I should have been watching what I said. Still, Sano, you'd start throwing those things around way too easily. Sano-san, damn it.
I mean, he also does sometimes say Sano. Just like how he sometimes says Shin for Nagakura.
Yeah, that's true.
Or Shinpat.
Senpachi?
No, just Senpach. Pats. I can't say it the way he says it.
Senpach-san.
Yeah, Senpats. His punch had hit with enough force to knock a lesser man out cold, but Heisuke seemed only slightly the worse for wear. It had never been clearer that I was not among normal people.
That's all you're going to hear about this particular topic, Chizuru-chan. Chizuru-chan. I'm sure you're curious, but we can't tell you anything else, so don't ask.
Hello, Mr. Yan.
Oh, okay.
His voice was friendly enough, but his eyes gave his words a cold weight that made me feel almost uncomfortable. But how was I supposed to just drop it?
By letting go. The car that Heisuke was talking about are meant to be pitied.
The Corps. The name used by members of the Shinsengumi to refer to a secret unit within their organization. Really, they gave it right here?
Yeah.
That's...
The Fury Corps.
This is where they put that information? It couldn't be later?
I guess.
Okita-san's voice was flat, emotionless. Well, I guess I'm drinking water.
He's looking at you, kid. I'll do the same thing.
I think now would be a good time to take a tiny break because I'm out of water.
Yeah, we'll BRB, chat.
Where's the BRB? There it is. The BRB is above Okita's head.
I wonder if I'm the first one back. I probably am. Yes, there we go. Actually, you know what? Just to reflect, the I forgot my mic was still on. Oh,
Soju is wearing BRB as a hat. Alright, go away.
okay, bye.
The BRB is gone!
Yes, it is.
His eyes were grim, and there was a small chill melancholy about him. A sudden chill melancholy about him. I couldn't bring myself to say anything more. Thankfully, Nagakura-san stepped in to break the silence.
Oh, it's nothing you need to worry yourself about. You don't have to get all worked up.
I was only a guest in their house, not a warrior of the Shinsengumi. I didn't need to know the truth behind whatever secrets the Shinsengumi kept. I'd known that from the beginning. That knowledge was little comfort, however.
Put it from your mind. Involving yourself in our affairs would only put you in greater danger.
I bit my lip and kept silent. The wall between us was almost a physical thing, and it was far too large an obstacle for me to defeat easily. I finished my dinner in sad silence, excused myself, and returned to my room. I had a great deal to think about. The Shinsengumi. I knew of the Shinsengumi, of course. Their name meant Elite Volunteer Corps.
Or
Not, yeah, Corps. Whoops.
Corps.
Corps. Not really. That's what that translates to. Because I know Shin means new.
New Volunteer Corps?
Shinsengumi. New something corps. Or group. Gumi could also be translated as group.
New Volunteer Group.
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. I But this corps they'd mentioned, it seemed to be something different. So Sanan-san is part of the Shinsengumi, but he shouldn't be part of the corps? The way they said it, it seemed as if this corps was another entity inside the Shinsengumi. No, I wasn't supposed to think about those things. I was only going to get myself in trouble if I stuck my nose where it didn't belong.
That's right, because curiosity killed the cat.
If I saw or heard the wrong thing, I could even end up dead. If I die, I'll have a hard time looking for my father. There were people who cared about me, and my death would no doubt sadden them. With that in mind, I did my best to put the day's events out of my head and climbed onto my thin futon. July 1864.
A few months later.
How many months is that? From February to July?
About 5 months, I think.
Damn. It was later that day that Hijikata-san called for me. Excuse me. I'd been relieved to find Okita-san and Heisuke-kun had been summoned along with me. A private conversation with only myself and Hijikata-san would have been cause for a significant case of nerves. I was still trying to puzzle out what to say when Hijikata-san began to speak, his voice cold as tempered steel.
You can leave the compound.
Really? His announcement was so sudden that I found I couldn't contain my enthusiasm. Hijikata-san, however, retained his composure.
You're going to be accompanying whoever's on duty. You jump when they say jump, and die when they say die. Are we clear?
Yes, sir. At last, I would be able to go outside. I would finally be able to begin searching for my father. My answers wouldn't show themselves immediately, I knew, but at least I was free to look for them.
Soji, Heisuke, you're on patrol today. Got it? Oh, I get it now. That's why you had us pulled in here, right?
The confusion that had been on his face since I'd entered lifted at last.
I think it's gonna be Soji's turn this time. Where am I at? Okay, yeah. I think it's Soji's turn this time, though. The first division's doing rounds today, right? Yeah, Heisuke and the 8th are gonna go out tonight, so I think he has a point. She'll be safer during the afternoon.
He nodded at Heisuke, and Heisuke and gave me a quick wink.
Don't forget, you run, I kill you. And if we get jumped by the Ronin, I'm not sticking around to pull your ass out of the fire. Got it?
He wasn't being serious, but Hijikata-san turned his cold glare on Okita-san and frowned.
No, it's not okay, you idiot. What the hell? Why the hell do you think I'm sending her with you?
Okita-san's only response was a short snort of a laugh. What was that?
A short snort of a laugh.
Well, it did not come through.
Tit! Tit!
I won't run. I knew he wasn't being serious, but I couldn't stand to keep my mouth shut. When I came here, we made a deal. I promised. The Shinsengumi would help me find my father, and I would keep quiet and not run away.
So why are you talking now?
Jesus Christ. And I still wanted to find him, just as much as I had the day I first met the Shinsengumi. I'll keep my promise. So please, keep yours. I gave Okita-san a short bow, never taking my eyes off his face. The smirk that had been on his face when I began has shrunk to something smaller and more than a little awkward.
My apologies. I guess I underestimated you. You should realize, though, that there's no way to know what could happen out there. If you come with us, you're putting yourself in danger. If that's alright with you, then feel free to join us on our rounds.
Even I knew that Kyo was not safe. But I didn't care. I had to find my father. At that moment, any possible danger seemed immaterial.
The Choshu have been acting up. We don't know what they're up to, but chances are it's bad for us. I'd rather not be sending you out.
Choshu Domain, a domain governed by Takachika Mori, an opposition daimyo. Most members of this domain were nationalistic imperialists during the early part of the Bakumatsu period, and later attempted more directly to overthrow the shogunate. He seemed to be almost talking to himself, but his tone was stern and thoughtful. The soldiers of the Choshu domain were part of the Imperial Nationalist Party.
Oh boy, more history.
Imperial Nationalist Party, a term for the philosophical and political learnings of those who wanted to see the emperor as the supreme administrative power for Japan, and also hoped to remove foreign influences from the country, also known as the Sonjo faction. And this is why Haruka has a problem with the Imperial Nationalist Party. They want the foreigners out, but they will happily use foreign weaponry.
Listen, we don't want your kind here, but your guns, we want them here.
Yeah! And this is why Haruka's pissed. They had increasingly been turning to force in the pursuit of these goals. Blah, my brain. Where'd my brain go? Where has my brain gone? They had increasingly been turning to force in their pursuit of these goals. The Shinsengumi, on the other hand, were loyal to the shogun. Since their masters were at odds, the Shinsengumi and the Choshu domain were enemies. It occurred to me that the increased activity of the Choshu domain had likely made it difficult for the Shinsengumi to shoulder a baron such as me. Why are you giving me permission to leave the compound at a time like this, then? Hichikata-san's face hardened and he looked away.
Odo has gone back to Edo, and we've heard that a couple of people saw someone around Kyoto. It might not be him, but it matches his description. Besides, I've kept you locked up for almost half a year. The Shoshu are a threat, but if it wasn't them, it'd be something else. I have to let you out sometime, or you'll never find anything.
It wasn't what I'd expected to hear from him. He was right that they'd postponed my search for my father for quite some time. What I hadn't expected was that he would give any thought to my feelings on the matter. Thank you very much.
Take a drink! Kusanagi no Tsurugi.
Okay.
One of the miscellaneous myths from Japan.
Kusanagi
No Tsurugi.
no Tsurugi.
What is your favorite? It's formally, it's also known as the grass cutter.
Oh, what?
Ah,
What are you looking at?
Japan stuff from overly sarcastic productions. It's
Oh,
not a katana. Yeah, it's right there in the name. Kusuragi no Tsurugi. A Tsurugi is a straight-bladed, double-edged Japanese sword.
all right then. I
Just
bowed.
looking at the comments for it.
I bowed as I spoke, not sure what else I could do to express my gratitude. Hijikata-san only turned back to his work.
Besides, plenty of our guys aren't feeling so hot these days. We aren't exactly in top condition, are we?
Heisuke-kun's joking didn't seem to appeal to Hijikata-san, who only frowned more deeply. Well, it has been awfully hot lately. And it certainly had been. Day after day, the sun burned down on Kyoto from a cloudless sky, and all of the rooms in the compound were so humid that I felt dizzy as soon as I stepped inside. I had heard that the heat had been too much for some of the Shinsengumi soldiers, and they'd taken ill. Oh no, heat stroke. If you want
to go, you can go. You have my permission.
Alright. I sat there for a moment and considered my options. There was something in his words and demeanor that told me he didn't want me to leave the compound. Still, if I was... Eh?
I said, "Aw."
Still, if I was with Okita-san or Heisuke-kun, I had no doubt that I'd be safe and well protected. On the other hand, my presence could easily be an undue burden to them. What was I to do?
Remain in the compound since this is Hijikata's route.
Remain in the compound.
Yay!
They really added a lot on that scene. Holy shit. There were 4 options. If I remember correctly, there was those 2 options.
And then...
to go with Saito to Terada Inn, or go with Hijikata on rounds. And that's where you meet Iba. The one with Saito is how you meet Ryoma. In the end, I decided not to leave. I think you picked this option for Kazuma. Yeah, don't worry, it'll happen soon. They had enough on their minds without having to worry about me. Still, I couldn't keep myself from feeling a little sad about it. I gave my head a shake. Alright, what should I do today?
Become my wife. I mean, what?
What? For the past 6 months, I'd done little more than run inconsequential errands for the Shinsengumi. I'd also helped clean the compound and prepare meals, and eventually I'd learn how best to help without getting in the way. Most of my time was spent with the captains, but on the occasions where I bumped into the rank-and-file soldiers, I'd gotten to a point where I could speak to them easily enough, probably because they thought I was just a page. My desire to find my father had kept me from trying to run away. I think they finally started to trust me. At least I hope they have. Some of them still weren't terribly nice to me, like Okita-san. But by and large, they'd begun to give me a little more freedom. It sure was hot. What should I do today?
You've already asked this, Chizuru.
We're not adding another drink total thing. My mind was completely blank. It was too hot to think. Of course. I go to the central courtyard. Oh, this is also for Sanan. There was usually a breeze there, and if I stayed in the shade, it would probably be quite cool. My hopes and dreams of a comfortable afternoon were shattered.
Uh-oh.
There's no wind. The sun's heat was unrelenting. Normally, a nice cool breeze would have given me a chance to feel comfortable, but I had a feeling it was going to be a bad day. Shade was the best I could hope for, it seemed. I sighed and sat down in the deepest shade I could find. As I watched the sun roast Kyo, something occurred to me. Oh, right. My father's been here, hasn't he? They told me as much, but they hadn't told me why. Had he been tending to the injured? Or perhaps educating the Shinsengumi on how to avoid illness? No, that didn't sound like him. He'd visited only a few times, or so I've been told. If he'd really been the Shinsengumi's doctor, then he would have visited far more often. Which left me with the question, why? It had already been made clear to me that the Shinsengumi had plenty of secrets that I wasn't meant to know. I had a feeling that whatever my father had been up to, it had something to do with those secrets. No, that can't be right, can it? I shook my head again, trying my best to dispel the dark thoughts taking shape there. Sanan.
What? Can't be right? What can't be right?
No. I spun around to find that Sanan-san had walked up behind me, utterly undetected and unannounced, because Sanan is sneaky as fuck like a snake.
Speaking of which...
You goddamn snake!
Oh, Sanan-san, is it alright for you to be walking around?
Please, I'm no bedridden invalid. There's nothing wrong with me.
When he spoke, there was a hint of coldness to his words.
Ah, although I suppose my left hand is something of an invalid.
Sanan. Sanan. I couldn't bear to look at the sad, twisted smile he gave me. His arm hadn't healed, and it seemed certain now that it never would. The rest of the captains seemed sure that he would never be able to use his arms as he'd done before. His arm as he'd done before.
And what are you doing? Are you allowed out of your room? You haven't been given the run of headquarters, I'm sure.
I know. I'm sorry. They usually let me walk around as I please, so long as I didn't go into anyone's rooms. But I knew that, technically, I was still confined to my quarters. Whatever freedom I had was out of kindness, nothing more. In other words, Sanan-san was right. If he decided to chastise me for being in the courtyard, I had no reasonable response. There were some things I wanted to think about. I hoped the courtyard would be cooler than my room.
No such luck.
The moment the words were out of my mouth, I realized they sounded far more like childish excuses than any sort of real explanation.
When you sneak about without permission, it makes it seem as though you have something to hide.
I'm sorry. My explanation had been poor, certainly, but he could have at least pretended to acknowledge it. Still, I was beginning to grow accustomed to the subtle cruelty that seemed to accompany each word out of Sana-san's mouth. Alright, I'm going back to my room then. I turned and began to walk away. Sana-san's unpleasantness had started after he'd been injured during his trip to Osaka. He'd spent most of his time locked in his room now, and he was quick to take out his frustration on other people. I knew the loss of his arm had hurt him, probably more than I could understand, but I wished that he could go back to being the warm, kind man he'd been when I'd met him. I turned around to see him still standing there. It's really hot out today. You should try and stay out of the sun. And please take care of yourself. I gave him a nervous little laugh, and he responded with a chuckle of his own. His smile didn't look forced.
Thank you. Take care of yourself as well, Yukimura-kun.
There's the smiling Sanan we were looking for.
Yeah.
Someone in there the Sanan I'd first met was still in there. That sentence is weird. My spirits lifted, I ran back to my room. It was later that evening that the compound exploded with activity. I was walking down the hall when I heard footsteps and turned to see Nagakura-san coming towards me. Nagakura-san? What's that for? He glanced down almost absently at his hands, which held a candle and an
Exponentially.
exponentially
Oh,
needle.
Yeah, it's an exceptionally long needle.
There you go.
Oh, the Chosu guys we picked up isn't talking. The commander's gonna talk to him personally, but he said he didn't have the right tools and sent me out to get these.
I don't understand.
Probably best if you don't.
Okay. I got that they'd captured someone, but what were the needle and candle for?
Torture! Haha, look, kid, ignorance is bliss, alright? So don't think about it too much.
He gave me another bark of laughter and then headed past me down the hall. I still didn't know what he meant. As the sun began to set, the activity in the compound reached a fever pitch. Hesuke-kun! He shot past my door as I called out, then wheeled back around.
What happened?
What?
Oh, that's you.
What happened? All the men are running around. Did you get some information out of that Choshu man you captured? He nodded.
It looks like they're having a meeting right now. We're getting ready for a raid.
Oh. Eisuke went on to explain that the Shinsengumi would be splitting into two groups and searching locations at opposite ends of the city. It's time for the Ikeda incident!
So soon?
Yes, so soon. Kondo-san will take 10 men to the Ikeda Inn, and Hijikata-san will take 24 to the Shikoku Inn. Ikeda Inn, one of the several locations where the nationalist groups claiming to support the emperor would gather. Shikoku Inn, one of several locations where national imperialists gathered. That was 1 for 1.
I heard that they're probably at Shikoku. Gotta say, I'm kind of pissed that the chief's sending me to Ikeda.
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 There you go. They'd send more men with Hijikata-san because they thought he'd probably be seeing action. Kondo-san and his men were just to make sure they covered all their bases.
They should have flipped it the other way around.
You figured, but... You mean there aren't even 40 men ready to move? I known that the heat in close quarters had made some of the men sick, but I hadn't known it was so many. And then in the remakes, it's just like, food poisoning. That's it. Just food poisoning.
Why?
I don't know. Food poisoning.
It's almost about to be the 20th, too, I noticed.
What?
It's 11:59
Oh, I
for
see
you.
it. Is it gonna turn? Are you going to turn to midnight?
I am
Mr.
looking
Clock?
at my little clock.
That was absolute gibberish that I just said. I'm sorry.
I mean, I understood it, but I speak gibberish.
Okay. Hesuke sighed.
We sent word to the Aizu and the Judiciary Commissioner, but looks like they're just gonna sit on their hands.
It sounds like you've got your work cut out for you.
There it goes.
Oh, now it's 12. Unfortunately, there wasn't much I could offer him apart from sympathy. I had a feeling it was going to be a difficult night. After all of the men capable of fighting had left for their respective assignments, Sanan-san called for me.
I'm sure it was only out of courtesy, but the chief has asked me to protect the compound. It was mostly empty, of course, but someone may try to attack us for that very reason. So I must ask you to stay where I can keep a close eye on you. I may need to give you orders should the worst occur.
I hesitated a moment, then spoke. Does that mean you'll protect me? I wasn't sure why, but he laughed at that.
Well, I should hope I'll be more of use than the men who've been confined to their beds, at least.
Was I supposed to be happy? Wasn't I supposed to be happy? His smile was so sad. I wasn't sure what I should say. It seemed to hurt him the most when the rest of the men were out fighting. And all he was able to do was wait. The silence between us stretched out until suddenly the door to our room opened without a sound. I wonder who!
It's best boy.
I wonder who!
It's best boy. Colonel Sanan, we've confirmed that the Choshu are meeting at Ikeda.
Ikeda.
Ikeda. They are meeting at Ikeda.
The Ikeda Inn? I'm keeping this on as long as Yamazaki is on screen.
Let me see. Oh. Oh dear. That's less than desirable. I suppose the Shinsengumi has never been good with games of chance.
His tone was light, but his face was serious, and with good reason. They had been certain Shikoku was the right location, and had sent only half as many men to Ikeda.
Yamazaki, can you do me a favor?
Susumu Yamazaki, a Shinsengumi officer and spy. He is a member of the Watch and reports to Hijikata-san. The man who he called Yamazaki nodded curtly.
First, go tell Hijikata-san that go.
Is it?
I'm actually looking at it, and it says Hijikata. It says same as above, so I'm assuming it's Hijikata-san.
Ah, okay.
Hijikata-san, that the enemy is meeting at Ikeda. He should be on his way to Shikoku.
Oh wait, that makes sense. They're the same age. Never mind.
And I'm sorry to trouble you with it, but I need you to take this child with you as well.
This child? Wait. Was he talking about me?
Hi.
Yamazaki-san seemed just as surprised.
I don't mean to be rude, Colonel, but if all you need is a message delivered, I think I can handle that myself.
Yamazaki-san's cold eyes slid over to me for a moment as he spoke.
There may be Ronin out to intercept you.
There was a chance Choshu had support, he continued. If Yamazaki-san encountered resistance, it would take longer for his message to reach Hijikata-san, perhaps too long, assuming, of course, that it reached him at all. Sana-san finished with the soft smile I hadn't seen him use for weeks.
Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yamazaki-san nodded.
If the worst should happen, I can hold off any Choshu Ronin and give her the message.
Oh. I gulped. It sounded as if they were suggesting that if things went badly, Yamazaki-san would sacrifice himself.
No, best boy, don't do it! Yes, of course. Yes. Of course, I doubt it will come to that. We're short of men right now, which means there's more I need you to do. You'll need to notify the Aizu and Judiciary Commissioner as well.
That would have Yamazaki-san running all across Kyo. I suppose it really drove home just how thin the Shinsengumi was stretched. Apart from Yamazaki-san and Sanan-san, the only other person able to carry messages was me.
You're Chizuru Yukimura, right? I've heard you know a bit about how to protect yourself.
I do. He looked at me for a moment, emotionless.
Unfortunately, I cannot guarantee your safety. If you can work with that, then you're welcome to join me.
If I tried to run away while we were out, I had no doubt that he would kill me without a hesitation. He would see his mission as the priority, not my life. Even so, I'll go. If I really could help, then I wanted to. I'd lived with these men for almost half a year. They'd fed me, given me a roof over my head, and helped me look for my father. I can take care of myself. You don't need to worry about me. Sana-san gave me a small smile. I knew he wanted to join the battle more than anyone, but we both knew that was impossible. The least I could do for him was carry out my mission.
Very well. I accept your request, Colonel.
He bowed, then turned to me.
Let with all your might.
He whispered and ran from the room. I took off after him, my legs working as hard as they could. That's a difference, jeez. Into the street we ran. I discovered quickly that half a year indoors had done little for my physique, and I was clearly out of shape. After only a few blocks, I found myself gasping for breath.
No matter what happens, follow this street. Do not look back.
I had neither the time nor the breath to respond.
Huh?
That's a difference, because that would have been a choice. We've missed two choices. When we left the compound, I'd already decided that I would trust Yamazaki-san completely. So I didn't look back. As I stepped into the next intersection, I saw a flash of metal out of the corner of my eye.
Keep going. I'll catch up in a moment.
Right. Do. I kept running. I pretended I didn't hear the sound of swords ringing against one another behind me, gritted my teeth and ran. My knees felt weak and my legs shook, but I kept going. They'd have to collapse or shake themselves to pieces before I'd stop. Even so, I felt so slow. I wanted to cry out, to scream at my body to go faster, faster. A light shone out of the darkness so suddenly that for a moment I was blinded. My heart stopped. Was it Choshu's soldiers? I froze.
What the hell are you doing? Oh, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, like, give me a second to figure out who the fuck that is. I very nearly began to cry with relief. Instead, I simply collapsed as Harada-san reached out to grab me. See how they're not wearing, like, the white Haori? They still have the blue.
Yeah, that's what threw me off in the OVA.
Yeah, because they added that in the remake, so at night they have white. But in here, since it's original, they didn't do that.
Hey, you alright? If you left the headquarters without permission, Hijikata's gonna kill you. Hijikata... Where are you? Oh, Hijikata-san is gonna kill you.
I grabbed hold of Harada-san's hand and pulled my body to its feet. What I wanted to tell him was that I had permission to leave. Yawn.
Because she's so tired.
And explained to him that it was all right for me to be there, but I was breathing so hard I could barely speak. Besides, I hadn't been sent to Hijikata-san to make excuses. I took as deep of a breath as my shuttered lungs could manage and spoke. They're meeting at Ikeda. Suddenly, Hijikata-san's expression changed.
Then they are at Ikeda.
I nodded rapidly.
Are you sure?
Hijikata-san gestured towards me.
Gestured.
Meh.
Sonnen lost his arm, not his brain. The kid didn't run away. The colonel sent us this message.
Harada-san whistled.
Whew! I'm impressed you found us. I didn't really think you knew Kyoto that well, kid.
The fuck was that? Yeah, Yamazaki-san. I finally got some of my breath back, and I did my best to tell them what had happened.
What about the Aizu and the Judiciary Commissioner's men? Are they on their way to Ikeda?
I just shook my head. Hijikata-san thought for a moment, then spoke.
Saito, Harada, you take your men out to Ikeda. I need to go deal with something.
Harada-san.
Okay, so he does say it like I did. Alright.
Yes. Harada and Saito-san nodded. Harada-san and Saito-san nodded curtly, then turned to their business. Meh.
Kyoto will be dangerous for you alone. Stay with us or go with Hijikata-san.
I still lacked the breath to respond properly, so I simply nodded. We both knew they couldn't leave me.
Hijikata.
We both knew they couldn't leave me here. I didn't know how to get back to the compound, but who should I go with? I wonder who!
Stay with Hijikata-san.
Stay with the poster boy.
You did this to us, game. You did this to us, Idea Factory.
Wait, what? Poster boy?
Yes.
I thought you would blame the wheel.
Also, yes, but, you know.
The prospect of being alone with him was rather frightening, but for reasons I still don't understand, I decided to go with Hijikata-san. We were quiet for a while. I felt like I should say something, but I wasn't sure what. Instead, I kept quiet. After a moment, he glanced down at me.
Good job with that message. I think it might have given us the advantage we need.
I never thought Hijikata-san, of all people, would praise me for anything. My heart fluttered momentarily in my chest.
I mean, he certainly did in SSL with the whole, asshole incident. With your son.
Oh.
How
All
she
right.
Zawa-san.
Yeah. Still, what did he mean by an advantage? If the battle at the Ikeda Inn had already begun, it didn't seem like we had much of an advantage at all. We stepped out from the alley and onto the central avenue. Hijikata-san? Why are we out here on the street?
What kind of a man tries to hide all the time?
Huh? I blinked, not sure what to make of that, when... He's back! Yamazaki-san appeared beside us without making a sound. Yamazaki-san! You're safe! He didn't seem to have been hurt at all, thank goodness. Yamazaki-san's eyes slid to me for a moment, then back to Hijikata-san.
You're already aware of the situation at Ikeda, I assume? Colonel Sonnen ordered me to notify the Aizu and the Judiciary Commissioner, but...
Hijikata-san simply nodded.
Yeah. I have new orders for you in a few minutes. But for now, stick close.
He lifted his chin a fraction of an inch, and something in his voice changed, almost imperceptibly.
Your commander needs to go have a word with a bunch of useless bastards.
Deep in his cold eyes, I saw a spark of anger.
Someone's gonna get it.
No sooner than were the words out of his mouth that they appeared, line after line of government soldiers marching towards us. There were hundreds of them, even marching abreast across the entire width of the street. There were several rows deep.
Soy! Where? Wah!
What? The fuck?
Blame Ed, and Eddie for that one.
Oh my lord. Now I understand why Hijikata-san had taken us out into the street. The government force would never have fit through the back alleys, and we would never have seen them. There was something about their march, so seemingly slow and unconcerned, that lit the fires of anger in my own eyes.
Wait, what?
But the rest of the men are still fighting at the end. The Shinsengumi had only a few soldiers able to fight, but even so, they were risking their lives for the safety of Kyo. Didn't these government men have the same responsibility? Why weren't they rushing to help the Shinsengumi at the inn? Perhaps my anger was more obvious than I realized, because Hijikata-san gave a snort of laughter.
Don't worry, I'll make sure they don't screw us.
With that, he stepped forward into the very middle of the street, directly in front of the advancing soldiers. He did nothing more than move a few feet and turn to face them, but there was such authority in his movements that he could have easily been at the head of an army.
The Shinsengumi are currently conducting an official investigation of the Ikeda Inn. You will not interfere. You will not enter the Ikeda Inn. Ikeda Inn.
Even I could see that the government men were going to protest Hijikata-san's proclamation when Yamazaki-san leaned over and whispered something to me.
If we let these men walk into the inn, then they'll take credit for subduing the Choshu threat.
What? How could they? After all the Shinsengumi had done, it just didn't seem fair. But it's the men of the Shinsengumi who are risking their lives.
And this makes me think of the Brotherhood of Steel and Fallout 4.
Yamazaki-san simply looked away.
Then you see now how little respect they have for the Shinsengumi.
If we allowed them into the inn, Yamazaki-san told me, then they would undoubtedly play up their own role. In fact, they would likely entirely omit the fact that the Shinsengumi had been first on the scene. That was why the commander was making sure to keep them out. At last, I understood what Hijikata-san had meant earlier when he spoke of an advantage.
But we must. You really think you can fit all of these men in there? The best you'll be able to do is surround it. Unless you really want to send them in there to die. There's a fight going on, you know. And if you value the lives of your men, then I suggest you stay put.
Hijikata-san's tone, as much as his words, left no room for argument. Until the battle ended, he stood his ground, and not a single man challenged him.
Because that would be suicide.
And
that
then
next day.
and then, 2 hours later, actually. And then the sun came up. The raid itself had lasted only 2 hours, but for me, at least, it had felt far longer. There had been 20 Imperial nationalists at the Ikeda Inn. The Shinsengumi had killed 7 Ronin and injured 4 more. I learned later that with the help of the Aizu domain and the Kyo Judiciary Commissioner, they had arrested 23 people. Kyo Judiciary Commissioner, a shogunate administrator whose role was to oversee the daimyo, settle law disputes, and supervise the city. The position was occupied by Sadaaki Matsudaria during this time period. The owner of the Ikeda had also been arrested for trying to help the Choshu rebels escape. The Shinsengumi had won an incredible victory, fighting against superior numbers in enemy territory, but they had paid dearly for it. Okita-san had taken a blow to the chest and lost consciousness. Heisuke-kun had been cut in the forehead, and the bleeding refused to stop. Nagakura-san had injured his left hand. One of the Shinsengumi soldiers had lost his life at the inn's rear entrance, and 2 others had been severely injured there as well. It didn't seem likely that they would survive. The Kyo Military and Judiciary Commissioners, run by the Aizu and Kuwana domains, respectively, had also fought Choshu Ronin. Kyo Military Commissioner, a position to which one was appointed by the shogunate. The position holding this office was tasked with keeping peace in the city of Kyo. It was occupied at one point by Katamori Matsudaria of the Aizu domain. Kuwana domain governed by Sadaaki Matsudaria, the Kyo Judiciary Commissioner. With the successful resolution of the Battle of Ikeda-in, the Shinsengumi had at last made a name for themselves. Battle of Ikeda-in, the incident when Shinsengumi troops raided the Ikeda-in to halt a plot to kidnap the emperor and burn the city of Kyo. It looked as though the peace in Kyo had been protected. Never could I have imagined what the ultimate result of their victory at the Ikeda-in would be. And that brings us
August
to
1864.
I think this is a good place to stop.
I mean, if you want to.
Kinda want to. Save.
Yay!
Yeah. Alright. It's time to go.
Alright, so tomorrow
We got Hakuoki Alta Art in the afternoon at 2 or 3. I don't remember which one it is.
and then later that evening we are going to be doing some more dubbing, but this is SSL.
Yeah, we're doing Hakuoki
The
Sweet School Life, and we're doing Kauru's Route and
Brat.
probably finishing it.
Yeah.
Don't call me a brat.
So you would have me lie then.
Shut up. Anyway,
In the meantime, please drink water.
have a good day or night.
Try not to die because you didn't drink water, and we will see you tomorrow afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.